first section of notes today is titled Factoring. Difference of squares. Factoring difference of squares. The first problem is x squared minus 4. When you factor the difference of squares, you only have two numbers here, or two terms. And in every case of difference of squares, you'll be able to take the square root of each of these terms or each of these numbers. For example, the square root of x squared would be x, and the square root of 4 would be 2. Your first answer, take the square root of each one, and you have x plus 2. The second answer, second parentheses, is exactly the same, except you change it to a minus 2. So x squared minus 4 factors to x plus 2, x minus 2. Second question, y squared minus 100. Again, to factor difference of squares, take the square root of each term, y squared, the square root would just be y, the square root of 100 would be 10. Second answer, exactly the same, except you change it to a minus 10. If you wanted to, you could switch these parentheses, have the y minus 10 first and the y plus 10 second, and that would be the same answer. Last question for this section, a squared minus 169. Again, the first step, take the square root of a squared, which would be a. The square root of 169 is a number times itself as 169, and that number would be 13. And your second answer, change it to a minus 13. The reason this works out is if you FOIL it out, the outside term will always be a negative, in this case negative 13 term, negative 13a. The inside term will always be a positive 13a, so the outside and inside cancel, and that's why there's no middle term. But to solve difference of squares, take the square root of each term. The last section of notes today is titled More Factoring. Difference of squares. First problem we'll do is 4x squared minus 81. Just like before, we only have two terms or two numbers. Both of these, again, we can take the square root of. For example, 4x squared, the square root of 4 would be 2, and the square root of x squared would be x. So our first term would be 2x. Square root of 81 would be 9, so our first parentheses would be 2x plus 9. Same steps as before. The second answer is exactly the same, except it's minus 9. So 4x squared minus 81 factors to 2x plus 9 and 2x minus 9. Again, these two parentheses you could switch around, have the minus 9 first and the plus 9 second. Last problem that we'll do together for the section, 16y squared minus 25. Again, take the square root of each number. In this case, it's 4. Take the square root of the variable, which would be y, and take the square root of 25, which would be 5. So your first parentheses would be 4y plus 5. Second parentheses, just change it to a minus 4y minus 5.